Coming up on 2-Bid SoCon, we are giving out our 2024-25 SoCon Awards, naming all conference teams and giving our predictions for the upcoming SoCon tournament in Asheville. It was a fun one, after a word from our sponsors. 2-Bid SoCon is brought to you by The Ben Burnett Show. Sports, politics, anything else you're looking for. Weekends on Extra 106.3 in Atlanta or wherever else you get your podcasts.
Special thank you to Forrest Plunkett Real Estate Developers for sponsoring this episode. If you have any property you want to buy or have any houses to look at, visit forrestplunkett.com and they will get you set up. They're great. They've been doing this for years, and so thank you to them for sponsoring.
We got a few people in here now. I think we can go ahead and get started. This is our annual episode of tournament predictions and awards. It's definitely a fun one for us to go over and catch a lot of flack for during and after. So, Taylor, as the Game Picks champion.
Golly, come on, man.
It's lonely at the top.
And then he tweeted a Mario Kart meme.
Because I knew that would be the most stupid thing ever, and that would make you guys more.
Did you go 5-0 too, or no 4-1?
I went 4-1 because Furman won against Wofford.
The crazy thing is too, I was sitting here, and after, because that's the one I saved, and after Matt said, "What did you say? You took WCU." I was like, "Dang, I might as well just go with them on Wofford." Just because when Matt
yeah, you did say
one,
that, and then you were like, no.
No.
Anyway, Taylor, your SoCon Player of the Year is
Kamari Peterson. He's been so dominant all year. There's been games where it seems like he is single-handedly, much like last year in the SoCon tournament, just taking over for them. His three balls improved by like 15% this year. He can still drive to the basket, good defender, averaging 18 and a half, something like that per game, and he's really led them this year. And they're the 4 seed, right? He's led them to a top 4 spot and
3 seed.
3 seed, and that was my number 1 pick actually for our little draft, so I saw it coming. So I can say that it's another win for me, because I remember one of you guys was like, I picked him first. I don't remember which one of you said this, but one of you guys was like, "Well, I don't think any of us were going to pick him. You shouldn't have picked him first." So I had to bring that back
Peterson?
up, but that's okay. Yeah.
I don't think it was Peterson.
One of y'all said that.
Somebody go clip it. I don't know that.
I made some questionable picks after, but that one I know for sure I was on top of it.
Yeah.
Fair.
But yeah,
Jack?
it's Peterson.
Yeah. Jack, Player of the Year?
Yeah, I just don't think it's much of an argument that it's not anyone other than Peterson. Like, PJ Smith's the only guy in the running, and this finish from Peterson's been pretty. Just pretty much sealed it. And the fact that they're, second or third in the league. I guess third? Yeah.
Third, yep.
He's been great. He's pretty much carried them to finish the year here because, like we've said, they've been missing Seymour, been missing Bugs. Seymour, when he came back, wasn't himself, and Peterson, all by himself, has carried him to wins and relevancy still. So he's really impressed me. Definitely has surprised me how much of an efficiency jump he's made this year, because last year he was capable of being, the best player on the court, but it was the fact that every 2 times out of 3 that he was out there, it was going to be a shot-chucking affair and probably not the most efficient thing. But this year he's, still chucking, but he's making them. So it's very nice. One of the best tough shot makers in the league.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. It's Peterson. 19.5 points a game on 47-43 splits, along with 2 steals, which was a shock to all of us when we just read that a few minutes ago. Especially when you look at the injuries to Bugs and Seymour that kind of lingered through a lot of the year. Just coming up big and huge moments for him, too. He just kind of shouldered the load whenever they needed it. And, you mentioned that close to the season. They finished with 4 out of 5 wins, with the loss coming against Chattanooga, and he's averaging 25 a game. So, I mean, this has kind of just wrapped it up, but I feel like he's had it in the bag for a while now, in all honesty. Honorable mentions on this one?
Yeah, just Smith. I think Jaden
Yeah.
Seymour maybe deserves a mention, but he hasn't necessarily finished the year great. And outside of Smith, there's nobody else in the
Yeah, that's the only other one I consider.
conversation for me. Yeah.
I'd have to agree. Yeah, Smith would be my only other one. Jack, Defensive Player of the Year.
I kind of spoiled this last episode. It's Bowser.
It is.
I think for me, it's Bowser. I don't know that he overwhelmed everyone, like, stats-wise, to be worth, like, acting like he's so much better than everyone, but it's partially an eye test thing. Like, he led the league in blocks, but it's such an eye test thing every single game. He changes the way teams are able to attack Furman, can kind of carry their defense. Not to say that Smith, Anderson, Vanderwall, he and all those guys aren't good defenders, but the fact that you can have Bowser in the paint and he's so athletic and so long and kind of, even on top of not blocking everything, like he's affecting every shot at the rim.
Mm-hmm.
It's evident anytime you're watching him out there, like whoever's going up against him is probably not scoring, and then is definitely bothered every shot they take. So it's kind of a mixture of he's top in the league in blocks, but it's also so much of an eye test thing with how much he changes, how other teams have to play offensively.
Yeah, Taylor, I don't know your answer, so I'm going to follow up on Jack here. It's Bowser for me, especially when, like you said, Jack, the eye test. He's got, it allows, as a security blanket, he allows everybody else to kind of be aggressive and maybe go for a steal when he's just standing in the paint. And he's kind of developing this Wembanyama thing where guys will start to go into the paint and then do the Stockton dribble all the way through and be like, I'm not testing that guy. So just as an anchor for that defense that ended up third in opposing points per game, it all really revolves around him. So
I almost
Taylor?
feel like too that his numbers would be his counting stats would be even higher defensively. Because if it wasn't for, like you just said, the Wembanyama type thing, I feel like so much
guys
of
just aren't testing him
pull it out
anymore.
like they don't even want to take it.
Mm-hmm. Taylor?
I said Bowser as well because obviously he's a good shot blocker, but you guys already pretty much touched on it. There's only a few guys in the league where you drive to the lane and they might put up a floater or layup and they have to change the way they shoot it, or even if he doesn't block it, like Jack said, they're affecting it. They're kind of having to shoot it over him or something, or as you just said, Matt, they're doing the John Stockton dribble through the lane. So, yeah, I would agree with you guys. That's Cooper Bowser.
That's actually
Especially watching when he came to chat, he made a big impact on the game, even though they lost.
That's the
Yeah.
Chino Hills LaMelo dribble for me. For our
there you go.
generations, it's Chino Hills LaMelo.
Not a historian of the game.
Yeah. No, we live. That's real hoops. Freshman Chino Hills LaMelo would have took John Stockton to the back, dude. He would
I
have
agree.
cooked him.
I don't hate that take. Honorable mentions for this one? Boyd?
Go ahead, Taylor, if you got any.
Boyd or Seymour.
Yeah.
They're both great defensively. There's the only other two guys I really thought of, especially Seymour. If he didn't get hurt, it kind of took me, or took him out of my mind, but he's a great defender as well. But
I'm with you probably. I think it's even. I don't know. I think it's a similar gap to the Player of the Year, in my opinion. And who knows what the coaches are going to say. I almost feel like the awards are going to be weird this year because they took away media voting, and sometimes
That's crazy.
the coaches probably just
That is
don't
insane.
care half the time, and then others are just going to be based off how they played against them. But yeah, I don't think that's if you watch the league, I feel like there's nobody else with a significant argument compared to him.
Not in a big enough sample size, I would say.
Yeah.
There were times that I thought Josh Holloway would have an argument, but he's not playing 20 minutes a game. So, I mean, it's just not – it doesn't have the counting stats. Coach of the year. It's come down kind of an interesting race. Taylor?
I said Mike Jones. I considered Dan Earl, because of that huge surge in the second half, but I mean, no one expected UNCG to be where they are now. And with, they brought in so many of their role players from last year and bring in some transfers. And for them to finish second when I know us three had them in the bottom half, I've just been really impressed this year with where they've ended up. And they were a game away from winning the conference. And yeah, I got to give it to Mike Jones. He's done a heck of a job this year. So that's my pick for Coach of the Year.
Jack?
I went Andrew Wilson. I'm with you, Taylor. I think this is a tight race. I'm really interested to see how it goes.
I'm not mad at
because
it. No.
I think Mike Jones, great coach. They really overachieved this year compared to expectations. Like nobody, I've yet to see somebody who picked UNCG to finish top 3 that had any sort of inkling that they were going to be, a top tier team. Even if I don't feel like UNCG is the second or third best team in the league for this tournament. They're probably not my top 3 to win the tournament, but still, to accomplish what they did, it's great. I think Earl deserves a ton of credit. If you really think about it, everything they lost this year, coming into the year, and the fact that, not to say they obviously had Bonham and Huff to start the year, but the fact that they went out in the offseason, because I think that goes into the Coach of the Year for me. It's an offseason thing. Coaching is
100%.
both recruiting and what you're doing on the court, and I think the awards should show that, should mirror that. The fact that Earl went and got Bash Whelan and Frank Champion and Garrison Kiesler and Jack Costal is pretty crazy. That they pretty much all hit on top of the freshmen they had coming in. They had redshirted and Mulholland and Cusano, who both played well. Mm-hmm. And kind of the offseason thing is exactly why I'm picking Andrew Wilson. VMI had nobody of any worth. They might as well have had Taylor on the team, and that was their only guy on the roster. And that was what their VMI
can carry
team,
a team, man.
Yeah, that's what their VMI roster looked like in the offseason. And sure, he got some help. Being able to get transfers helped him a ton. But the fact that they went out and got a lot of gems. Ricky Bradley, has probably been their best player. It's up for debate, him or Cutulus. But, I had to take Wilson. He's been, if you don't know the league as well, I understand Earl or Jones. And I feel like the coaches may vote Earl or Jones. But what they've been able to accomplish when last year at this time I was talking about them as a team that was probably going to have to transition at some point just because they couldn't compete. I mean, seriously, that's not even I still stand on that. That's not – I don't feel like that's a bad take at that time or really at all. The fact that they could get transfers changed things, and the fact that they got Bradley back, kudos to them because they got a ton of gems, and it almost feels like a perfect season of how things have worked out this year.
Yeah. I'm with Taylor. I'm going Mike Jones. When you look at how he was able to reinvent this roster in a lot of ways, with Polite and Giles, and then coming into the year thinking that Atwell was going to be, your 1A guy, and picked to finish 6th by basically everybody. We picked him 7th, I'm pretty sure. Mm-hmm. Or Taylor and I did. No. Whenever you lose the Langleys and Macau Brown-Jones, you're probably looking at a tough year, but with what he's been able to do, to have them finish in second is remarkable to me. And not to discredit anything that Andrew Wilson did, because like you said, that team last year was awful, and it looked like they just had an open tryout and threw guys out there, and to field a team that has a non-zero chance to win next weekend is great stuff. But
they were a free win last year.
100%.
There was no.
Jack said I could have been out there chucking up shots.
Yeah.
The most fire they showed is when they fought ETSU in Asheville in that 7-10 game.
And that was what's his name? I can't remember that dude's name. He was the only good player. Tayshawn Jackson.
Tayshawn,
Yeah. What a dog.
yeah. But I can't be mad at either of those picks, to be honest with you.
I think Jones will probably win it. I'm with you. I just kind of wanted to give Wilson his flowers, but Jones, I'm totally with you on.
Wilson was my honorable
Giles
mention.
and some of those guys.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can only have 2 honorable mentions in this one, to be honest. That's the conversation, is Earl, Jones, or Wilson. So
It's only 3
we'll see. We'll see when it comes out. Getting into the still kind of newer awards now. Newcomer of the year, Jack. Colin Holloway.
I took Kenyon Giles. I think he's been great, and this was one of the most difficult awards, honestly.
'Cause it's
like
loaded.
everyone in the league is a newcomer, just about. Like it's really loaded, and I took him just because they finished second, and I think he's got best player on the court potential every time he's out there. He's been super consistent. I also thought about Bash Whelan. I think he was probably my second choice. I kind of went to award winning a little bit with a lot of my awards and my teams. But yeah, I went Kenyon Giles. Is it Giles or Giles? Why am I?
I don't know. I hear announcers say both.
I switch every time. I think it's Giles. I think it's Giles.
This is
It makes
bad.
more
I don't think
sense.
I've ever thought about this.
I hear it different every game I watch them.
Somebody tell
I think
us.
Giles
I think it's
sounds right.
Giles. I think it's
This is-
Giles.
I mean,
Very
Giles makes more
casual
sense,
to
but
me.
I heard Giles early on.
Let's say
No.
Giles for the
Screw
sake
it.
of
Say Giles, I agree.
for the sake of continuity. Taylor.
I picked him as well, and it was pretty much easy choice for me. He was the first guy I thought of. I mean, a guy to cut, like Jack said, it's so hard every year. Not even just in this conference, but everywhere where the transfer portal is just. I feel like every team's best player is almost a newcomer, 90% of the time, and for him to come in and completely take over that team, lead the 2 seed. I mean, it's pretty simple. He makes big plays every game, and he's their leader, and he's got best player potential on the court. It's pretty obvious for me that's Giles or Giles. Correct us if we're wrong.
Giles.
Yeah, I'm going.
It could be either. I've heard both. So
You guys are doing a pretty good job convincing me, but I wanted to give Ahmad Robinson his flowers.
Yeah, great player too.
Yeah.
He's just been a bucket all year long. 17 points a game on 43-33 splits. And kind of similar to Kimari Peterson, he just was the offense for Mercer. And I think he was really making the best out of a bad situation. Granted, they still finished.
He was great
eighth,
though.
8th, yeah.
But
I'm with you.
he turned the tide in a few games, like the Chattanooga game on January 1st and that game at UNCG where he had 33 or whatever it was. He had a phenomenal season, and I hate that it came in an 8 seed. So that would be my pick.
Yeah, I'm with you. I kind of look at him similar to Giles. I just think, like you said, finishing an 8 seed, it's hard for me to call you the best of anything. Even if he was great, it's just such a close award.
Mm-hmm. Sixth Man of the Year, which I don't understand why it's an award, but Taylor?
This one is probably the one I had the most trouble with, but I said Jeremy Lorenz. I just think, Wofford was a little disappointing for me, but when Filowich was in foul trouble or they just couldn't keep him in the game because of free throws, he'd come in and kind of semi-fill that role. Granted, he was a bit of a liability in defense sometimes, didn't have the best feet, but he could rebound, he could score in the paint, and average 9 and 5 or something like that off the bench, which isn't bad off the bench. So that was my pick. I liked what I saw from him off the bench this year.
Jack?
Took your pick pre-show. Forgot that there were 6 Men of the Year. Took Josh Holloway because Matt took him, and didn't even know Josh Holloway came off the bench. Or I guess less of that and more of that's how important he's been, how much of a role he's played. Kind of forgot that he even comes off the bench. So I think Josh Holloway's great.
Yeah, and it's bizarre that he plays 19 minutes a game because you can feel his impact so much more on a game-to-game basis.
Yeah, that surprised me when you said that. I was like, man, he comes off the bench.
I just don't understand this award in general with how much lineups can kind of change through
Especially in
an
college.
18-game schedule as opposed to like the NBA and an 80-game schedule, 82-game schedule. So it's Holloway to me because that guy's a borderline. Like, he probably should be a starter on that Samford team. And I think it's just kind of a strategic, just how he impacts the game on both ends of the floor. Just kind of flows better with, that second line that McMillan brings in. So I put down Lorenz too as an honorable mention. He was great. And then I think Ice Emery and Makai Johnson deserve some flowers too, especially with Johnson kind of filling the Bugs role as much as he could after he went down. So it's Holloway to me, but it's a tough category.
I consider Emery as well. If he was a little more efficient, I might have picked him, and if they won a few more games. But yeah, he was great as well.
And I think he started the year as a starter and kind of regressed back to the bench. But when he went to the bench, he was better than he did when he was as a starter. So
absolutely,
definitely an interesting one. So now, everybody's favorite, the 3 All SoCon teams. This was a hard year to pick, in all honesty.
This is giving me anxiety.
I had a tough time thinking about these. Taylor, I'll let you kick it off with your first team.
All right. Kamari Peterson, PJ Smith, Giles, Filowich, and Honor Huff. A lot of these went up based off wins, too. Peterson, obviously. Smith, obviously. Just feel like Giles being the leader of that number 2 seed, I had to. Filowich was the best big in the league, averaging basically double-double. Had to put him in there. And Honor Huff, similar last year, second half of the year, it was almost like a given he would make some game-changing threes, and we touched on it last episode. I don't know how he draws a foul in a 3 every game, but his impact is, I don't know. That was my first team.
Not a bad take. Jack?
Went Peterson, PJ Smith. I took Jaden Seymour, then Honor Huff, then Kenan Giles. I think positions don't matter. Filowich definitely made one of my teams, but Wofford, in my opinion, they've underachieved this year. Like
You're telling me.
They've been interesting. But yeah, I wanted to reward. I kind of think the top 4 to me are locks, and PJ Smith and Peterson are like the biggest locks of all locks, and I think Seymour and Huff are right there too. I think Seymour, is probably a tier below those two, and just how solidified he is, and Huff has probably been the best player on Chattanooga, that's what made these teams really hard, is because there's so many, and we'll get into that. There's so many Chattanooga guys that were like equal, but Huff was awesome to finish the year and throughout most of SoCon play. Like I said, I think a couple episodes ago, it was on both ends too. Like he really competed defensively, even if he's, like I said, never going to be a great defender. But he did his best to hide that.
He stepped up to
Giles,
the plate. Yeah.
He did.
Giles was on the 2 seed, best player on that team, and had a really great year. That almost sounds, that's kind of minimizing what he did this year, saying that he was just the best player on the 2 seed. He was really good this year. So I put him there over a Filowich or somebody else.
There.
So, Peterson, Smith, Seymour, and Huff would be unanimous from us. I have those 4 too. I put Frank Champion.
Wow.
I think when you look at what he was able to do in SoCon play, and when he really started to get rolling, as the center in that Princeton offense that Chattanooga runs, I think he was as big of a piece of their success as Honor Huff was. And so it was hard for me to leave Kenyon Giles off that list, but I just value what Frank Champion did all season long on both ends of the floor in every aspect of the game. So I landed him on my first team.
It's a statement.
This was hard.
I think he was great, especially once he got really healthy. Yeah. Jack, your second team.
So my second team, I went Trey Bonham, Bash Whelan, Kyler Filowich, Trey Fort, and Ahmad Robinson. Chattanooga has made this so tough because putting 4 players on 3 teams is crazy in this league. But I think Huff, Bonham, Whelan, and Champion have all been great this year, and at any given night, one of them can be their best player. When you talk about that team, it kind of felt like Huff, Bonham, and Whelan were locks to make the team, or to make an all SoCon team, and then Frank Champion became like their best player down the stretch where they've now won 11 games. And not every game, but there was a good bit there where he was just game changing. So they've made it really hard. I put Bonham and Wheeland on here. Filowich, like Taylor said, he's probably been the best big. Him or Champion's been the best big, and I think Filowich, the fact like we talked so much about how frustrating his free throw shooting is and how teams defend him and don't just foul him. And despite all of that, it almost feels like we're very negative about him because of that. But despite all that, he's been game-changing, and that's why I do question why teams don't just foul him, because he's such a force on the glass, really good finisher, and just is averaging almost a double-double, I think. He's been great. I think Fort's been really great. I almost feel like Sanford's best offense a lot of times is him shooting the ball. Sometimes he can get heat check happy, but that's just the Sanford offense. And then who did I say my last one was? Ahmad Robinson, great player. And like you said earlier, he's sucks they finished 8th, but even then Mercer, a little bit similar to VMI, just kind of an easier situation. They had nobody. And Ahmad Robinson has been a huge get for them. Like, he is a dude. He's one of the better players in the league. It may have been in consideration for the first team for me. I was kind of on the should he be second team or third team, just because they were, I don't want to reward them being that bad. So I put him there for my last spot.
Taylor, second team.
I had Jaden Seymour, Robinson, Freight Champion, Trey Fort, and Donovan Atwell.
So Seymour was not unanimous.
No, I had
Tell
him
me
on
your
the
first
second
team
team.
again. Tell me your first team again.
Peterson, Smith, Giles, Filowich, and Huff. I went a little generous with Filowich because I went a little position.
Okay.
I know it doesn't matter, but that's just a personal preference.
Okay. No, I'm with you.
But
Right.
Seymour is not as, I love Seymour. He was my first pick on the second team. And but
Second team one more time, tell me.
Seymour, Robinson, Champion, Trey Fort, and Donovan Atwell.
I like it.
Yeah.
My second team goes Kenyon Giles, Ricky Bradley, Bash Wheelan, Ahmad Robinson, and Nick Anderson.
Nice.
I've really started to value Nick Anderson here down the stretch. I feel like every time, like, they'll run that victory play for him or any kind of DHO, and when he comes off one of those, like, I just feel like it's going in every time. And he's just been so solid all year long when Furman has needed, another kind of initiator of offense. And then Ricky Bradley's just been great. I think you have to reward VMI for not being as terrible as they were, and Ricky Bradley's a huge piece of that. I think he was second in the league in scoring, and just like initiating offense for them, doing whatever is asked of him, I value a lot, so I've got him on there. Taylor, your third team.
Trey Bonham, Bash Wheelan, Corey Tripp, Ricky Bradley, and Nick Anderson. So they throw Nick Anderson last minute, kind of to your point, he was just such a bucket getter, especially in that second half of the year for me. A little streaky, but when he was on, he was on. And Bono and Wheelan, that was just hard picking two chat players, but man, they were that. Like Jack said, it's so hard picking 4 chat guys because they just have so many mouths to feed. But they were good bucket
They
getters.
all got fed, yeah.
Yeah, they did. And Corey Tripp maybe a little disappointing this year, but he was still their go-to scorer. And Ricky Bradley, as you said, one of the top scorers in the league, and for them to win 7 conference games, got to give him his flowers. So
yeah. Jack, your third team?
Yeah, I went Champion. I also took Ricky Bradley. Nick Anderson made my team. Corey Tripp made my team. And then I went Jaden Brownell. I think that kind of also puts into play early in the year, so pre-conference play when he was really great, but he was still really good in conference play. He probably wasn't at the same level, but I took him over Atwell. Atwell was the guy I cut off, which feels bad to a point to cut off a guy from the second best or the second seed in the league, but I prefer Brownell, so I went with him, even though, like we said, it was really tough. I had probably 10 guys, so I wrote down kind of I wrote down my locks for each of the team, and then I just kind of put everyone else in third team, and I probably had 10 guys whenever I finished the second team, where I was cutting them down, and kind of go through some of like Brody Fox. Brody Fox averaged 16 a game, but they went 0 and
No,
18.
but they went
I couldn't
0
give
and
him.
18.
I doubt
Exactly.
anybody in the league is going to give him an all-tournament or all SoCon pick, even though he was, really good this year. Couldn't do that. Tyler Johnson averaged a lot of points, but they finished 8th. I can't put him on there. Cudulus had a really good year. Can't put them on there. They weren't good enough. There's a lot of guys that I just was like, I'm just not going to value winning. And maybe you put 2 VMI guys on, and I might shame you for that because they still finished, despite them overachieving, they still finished,
sketchy.
They're still playing on Friday. So that's ultimately, I kind of was like, let me give Sanford 2. I like Brownell better than Atwell, even though I think that's really close.
I did both. I got 2 VMI guys and 2 Sanford guys somehow. So my third team is Bonham, Trey Fort, Jaden Brownell, Kyler Filowich, and Cudulus.
So you snubbed Corey Tripp
I did snub Corey Tripp.
to put Cudulus on there from 7-seeded
Absolutely
VMI.
I absolutely did.
That's a choice.
Were you overly impressed with Corey Tripp and Wofford this year?
I think Corey Tripp, I was sitting there thinking about it today. And
I almost snubbed him, to be honest.
I was with you where I was like, did Corey Tripp have an all-SoCon season? And then I started to look at it like, yes, he did, but maybe it's just we're disappointed he didn't become an best player in the SoCon player like we thought he was going to be before the year. I think he still had moments of greatness, even though he wasn't the guy we hoped he was going to be. And like I was considering him or Atwell, not Cudulus. I can't reward
Those were my 2 cutoff guys, were
Yeah.
Atwell and Tripp. Were probably
Yeah.
16 and 17.
Yeah, mine was Tripp, Brownell, and Atwell.
Yeah. I just value what Cudulus did. Inside, kind of playing that pick and pop with Ricky Bradley. Maybe I'm just caught up in the euphoria of VMI not being the worst team in
Yeah.
Division One. Maybe I'm a prisoner of that, but
I took Andrew Wilson Coach of the Year, so we all are.
Yeah.
fair enough. Yeah, and then you look at what Filowich was able to do all season. I think he led the league in rebounds, and then Brownell and Fort were just the offense for Sanford. So those would be my 15. Honorable mentions, though, I have Chip Johnson, Marcus Kell, Brody Fox, Atwell, Tripp, Bernard Pelote, and Ronald Polite. I have to mention there's so many guys that had also kind of worthy seasons.
I don't feel like Polite. I don't know. I feel weird
Polite?
about Polite. I like Atwell a good bit better than him.
Oh yeah, no, Polite
I
was
would agree.
probably like 21st or something for me.
Yeah.
Like Atwell's on the the closer end of the mentions, but I don't know. I think Polite's season is worth mentioning. Having to step in for the Langley brothers and lead that team to the 2 seed was impressive to me.
Agreed.
By the way, we never did all defense teams.
We never did all defense.
So last awards, we probably need to do all defensive teams. Yeah. I took Bowser, Jaden Seymour, Karan Boyd, Kamari Peterson, and I took Garrison Kiesler, who I don't know if he will or won't get a pick, but I think he's been huge for Chattanooga's turnaround defensively. He is got great size and just a solid defender. He doesn't put up, and solid almost doesn't sound like enough. He doesn't put up like the steal numbers, block numbers, stuff like that, but he is a great defender. And anytime somebody starts going off, a lot of times it's because Kiesler's off the floor and you see Earl get pissed off and go get him and make him come in the game. I think he has been truly great. I think everyone else is pretty much chalk. Peterson leads the league in steals, Bowser in blocks, Seymour is probably the most versatile defender in the league, and next to him is Boyd, probably the second most versatile defender in the league. So I think all of them are chalk on there for me. And then, I think Kiesler deserves a nod.
Taylor?
It says Seymour, Bowser, Peterson, Josh Holloway, and Karan Boyd. So pretty similar. Picking 3 ETSU guys. Something I was like, if I get a flame for this, but I was like, you know what? Who cares? They're
They
a
can
great
defend.
defensive team. Yeah, they got versatile defenders. Boyd and Seymour are, and Peterson, like you said, averaging 2 steals a game. Then Cooper Browser, we already touched on. Josh Holloway, I just liked what I saw from him defensively. He was able to press. He's averaged over 1.5 steals a game. So it was a tough one, but that was what I decided, and made me realize how good of a defensive team ETSU was to have 3 guys in there.
Holloway's so good defensively that he started a skirmish back in his high school days.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
May or may not have been a certain
involved with who? With who? Yeah,
NBA player who loves some guns.
he does. Even though he's from private schools, wants to act like he's from.
Hey, it's
All right, I'm
Murray
going
guy.
too far.
We can't go too far.
Yeah, it's a Murray State legend.
We gotta act like he's
Yeah.
stand up.
Legend.
Did either of you have Kyler Filwich?
I thought
He was
about
probably
it,
my
but
honorable mention.
rebounding counts. I'm with you though.
Yeah.
So I have Bowser, Boyd, Filowich, Peterson, Seymour is my 5, with Holloway as a honorable mention. It's like you said, I just value the rebounding. Peterson led the league in steals. Seymour and Boyd are 2 of the most versatile defenders in the league, and Bowser's the depoy. So
Finishing
Those-
possessions is a very important part of defense, and rebounding is exactly that.
it's really interesting to bring up that Cooper Bowser averages like 5 rebounds a game. That I expected him to be at like 8. I
They
was
play him
shocked
weird,
to see
though.
that.
They
Yeah,
love
they
playing
do.
Heen and Huey and Molnar and all those guys.
Well, they don't love playing Huey.
I've
I
been
feel like
playing
they
him
have
lately.
to. I know, but they avoided it for whatever reason. So, those are our all SoCon teams. I'm sure we'll find out probably Wednesday before the tournament how the coaches felt. So that will be interesting to see. And it is now time to reveal our SoCon tournament brackets. We'll start with the Friday action. Taylor, who is moving on from Friday to Saturday?
Got Mercer over Western. I just feel like Robinson and Johnson. I just have a feeling this tournament will be star powered, and I just feel like they'll lead the way over Western. And I think VMI will beat the Citadel. So that one's pretty easy.
Jack?
I'm with you. I think Friday might suck. I think Mercer is. I think Mercer is sucks. They have to play Chattanooga, but I think they could give Chattanooga a tough run. Not to overrate Mercer, but I think they're the kind of team, to a point, like ETSU was last year, that can just really muck it up and has a guy in Robinson and another guy in Johnson that can, be that guy for stretches. I think they're one of the better 8 seeds we've had in the league in a good little bit. And then, I think VMI probably, Citadel may shock us. Brody Fox may continue his Player of the Year campaign he started in the second half versus Chattanooga a few weeks ago. But I think VMI it's kind of a special year for VMI. I feel like they got to win a game in this
if they
tournament.
don't.
Especially
They'll
against
probably be
their military rival.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Yeah, I just think I have way more faith in VMI to show up and show out every game. And that, just like I said about Mercer with the chance to get Chattanooga, I would think if VMI is really playing well, like they have a lot this year, they could give UNCG a run. And we'll see. And this league's shown in the last 3-4 years that somebody out of that Friday makes a run. So
Yeah. I'm with you guys on both accounts. VMI, just a way better year than the Citadel. I have a hard time believing they're just going to go lay down on Friday. And then Western Carolina broke my heart, so I'm picking Mercer. I'm hoping one of those Mercer guards can turn into a March Madness hero, but we'll see. So, Saturday quarterfinals. We have Chattanooga against Mercer, Samford in the 4-5 matchup with Furman, UNCG in the 2-7 with VMI, And ETSU Wofford in the 3-6. Jack, how do you want to do this? You want to just give your... You want to do one at a time?
I'll give you my we'll just go straight quarters picks.
Okay.
All of us, because we'll eventually have different things going on.
Maybe.
I've got Chattanooga over Mercer. I think it's their year to win it. Like, they are. I feel more confident about them than I do anybody else in the league. Not to say that, I also feel really good about ETSU if they're healthy. I feel like Sanford can make a run if they're healthy. UNCG just continues to play well, even though they kind of have a history of flopping come the SoCon tournament. But Chattanooga has been great. And I think the fact that they've got 5th and 6th year seniors all across that lineup that are all consistent players and have bought into their roles, everyone on that team has. And there's so many guys, like we said, that are almost like equals that are so good, with 4 teams on these all SoCon teams. It's hard to game plan against them because you want to stop Honor Huff and do all that. Well, Trey Bonham's right there. Or you want to stop Bonham. Bash Whelan is the greatest midi. He's like DeMar DeRozan in the mid-range for no reason with those weird fadeaways. Yeah, he is.
I think you mean Sean Livingston. But okay.
Yeah, Sean Livingston. He doesn't.
He does shoot it more like Sean
Livingston, but he has that weird, just like can hit it no matter what the coverage. Champion can run the offense so great, and is such a great finisher at his size. They're just hard to game plan for. I do feel like Mercer has a shot though. They've just got 2 of those, like you said, kind of March guys that can take over a game, and in a tournament of this style. But I gotta take the mocks there. Sanford Furman. I thought about this one hard earlier today.
This is tough, yeah.
I think I'm gonna take Furman, and this could come back to bite me because I also think Sanford could win the tournament, just the way they play, some of the guys they have. But man, Bob Ritchie, he just has Bucky McMillan's number, and he has a guy in PJ Smith that takes care of the ball. He's got a team that takes care of the ball. He's got a guy in Bowser that anchors their defense is great with, great defenders around him. I think Bob Ritchie is a really good March coach, postseason coach, and this team is Furman is always just a tough matchup for Sanford. I could see Sanford winning this for sure. I could see Sanford winning the tournament. That's probably the game of the night or the day, whatever time that game is. For me. But I'm going to take Furman there. UNCG VMI. Man, I really want to take VMI just for fun. I really want to do the SoCon Twitter thing of picking a ridiculous upset and then being like not acknowledging it at all after they lose. Be like, oh, they just wanted VMI to win. Sorry.
Don't be surprised if VMI wins.
Yeah, they
Don't
might
be
win.
surprised.
And also the Citadel might.
Don't be shocked, Matt.
Yeah, I really want to do that.
But
So let me skip that one. I'm taking ETSU over Wofford. Give me ETSU over Wofford just because I think ETSU is great when they're healthy. And yeah, just for the fun, I'm taking VMI over UNCG. That's how confident I feel in ETSU. I think for me, I really feel like ETSU is making the championship game out of that bracket. And I don't think UNCG's. I don't know. This just a hunch from watching them and watching what they did last year after being awful all year, really and truly, and all those guys maturing. Peterson becoming the best player in the league. Seymour's, a top 5 player in the league. I think they're gonna, and that's gonna spoil kind of my pick for the next round. But I kind of for the fun of it. I don't love UNCG as much. I've kind of made that known that I just feel funny about them. And I think it's kind of VMI's fun year. So let me just take VMI for the fun of it.
Taylor?
I got Chattanooga over Mercer. Chattanooga's playing just too good a ball right now. Mercer could give them a run because they've played 2 tight games. One he won over them, and then the other one was pretty close too. But I just think Chattanooga wins that one. I also have UNCG over VMI as much as I wanted to be different as well. But I just feel like UNCG's got too many weapons to lose that one. Although if VMI did win, I would not be mad, and I would not be
surprised.
That might be I wouldn't be surprised. But and then I also picked ETSU over Wofford. Wofford's just disappointing all year, and I just can't trust him. And we saw what Peterson and Seymour did last year, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did that again, especially with Peterson being the player of the year most likely. And then I'm also taking Furman over Sanford. And I also, this could also bite me in the butt too when I picked that. I was like, man, they're going to come after me on Twitter when that doesn't happen. But Bob Richter really does have their number. I just feel like they match up so much better with Sanford, and I have not liked what I've seen from Sanford recently. I just feel like PJ Smith, Anderson, Heen especially, who has experience before, they can all just match up well and win that game. But yeah, those are my picks for that one.
Please, Matt, please. Please don't take Furman, dude.
I've got Samford.
Good. We're gonna get.
I have Samford.
You saved us
Could
from
go
getting-
unanimous on one of these
Yeah.
again. This is getting bad.
First, to avoid the flack on Twitter, because you can't win when it comes to Furman. It's
No, you
always
can't.
it's always our fault somehow. I'm gonna also quote the "It's hard to beat a team 3 times."
I'm with you.
Old coaching adage. I don't know. I feel like McMillan has to have something up his sleeve that can make a difference in that game, because Furman's just, like you guys said, they've just had Sanford's number for a while now. And I guess I'm going to pick Sanford again. Chat Mercer is going to be a fun basketball game. I'll tell you that much.
I'm with you.
Mercer beat Chattanooga the first game of the season, and then had Chattanooga on the ropes a little bit later in the season at Chattanooga until Ahmad Robinson got that, I think he got a tech or whatever it was, and sat for like 15 minutes of game time. So that's going to be a fun game, but I'm still picking Chattanooga. I'm in on ETSU too, especially if Bugs is back. They're going to be a tough out, just with their ability to defend. And then if Peterson can, tap into some of those March heroics he had last year. Wofford is just disappointed all season. So I'd have to go ETSU. And then I struggled with UNCG VMI. Because this is like a worse UNCG team than the one that lost to ETSU last year. So I know they've kind of reinvented themselves, but I don't know. I don't feel comfortable picking UNCG. I also don't feel comfortable picking VMI. So I'm kind of just making this up on the spot right now, but give me UNCG. With their ability to shoot the 3 against the VMI zone, I think they're going to have a chance, and they have that closer in Kenyon Giles now. So
True.
I think that's going to be a fun game too. They're all looking pretty fun to me right now. I'm sure
I need SoCon John to drop the stat. I don't remember what it is, but he's got all the weird SoCon stats. But there's something like the 7 seed, so many years in a row, has made it to the championship game or upset the 2 seed or something. It happens every
Oh, it's
year.
at least the last 2 years.
And VMI, they kind of did it. They're in that position. So
Jack is on record as picking ETSU over UNCG last year, by the way. So that's pretty cool.
I forgot about that. That was a big time pool.
That was pretty cool, yeah. But you
Why
mentioned
did I
that
do
7
that?
seeds. I don't know.
I did not
Well, it
like
worked.
ETSU last year. I don't remember
It
why I
worked.
did that.
Well, you said something about Ebi Asamoah being a goat, and then that
God, what a
was
pool.
true too. Yeah.
That might be him.
So
It might be.
you mentioned the 7 seed stat. What's also interesting is I think I saw the 1 seed has won the last 7 years, the tournament, which is crazy because it just means it's basically a 1 versus 7 seed every year.
That's
So,
crazy, too, because this tournament is so competitive every year. If that's the correct stat, because that almost sounds like what the OVC tournament would be, or just an uncompetitive, not great league would be like.
Right.
And this is very competitive. I wanted to say one more thing. I was thinking about this with the Sanford Furman game. If Sanford wins that game, Colin Holloway showed up. We've talked about that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think. If Colin Holloway shows up, they'll win that game.
I like that take. I
Yeah.
do. And then you're picking Furman.
Yeah, I'm taking Furman though. 'Cause I've seen
So
the
he's
whole
saying
year.
he won't show up.
I've seen the whole year of him not showing up much. He did 2 games ago. So if he becomes the player or plays like the player that he was early in the season, they'll win that game and they'll have a real shot. Every game that he plays like that, they have a real shot of winning. So
SoCon John says 7 seed has advanced to the title game in 4 of the last 5 years.
yep.
That's insane. That's an insane stat.
The last non-1 seed was 3-seeded ETSU in 2017.
Jeez.
Shout out John for that one. Big scoop. So Taylor, your semifinals. You have Chat Furman and UNCG ETSU. Is that right?
Yep. Give me Chad over Furman. I just feel like Furman, they could have made a little run. I just don't think they have enough of the tank to beat how well Chad is playing right now. And that stat, you just...
I know what we're all setting up right now. This is the same thing we did last year.
Is it? Okay, well, that stat you just said about the 1 seed, I just feel like it's going to continue. It just kind of spoiled my championship, but I just feel like Chat matches up well against Furman like they did the last 2 times. And then... Yeah, ETSU over UNCG. I just think they have the experience, they have the star power, and they have a better team defensively and potentially offensively, at least from the starters, to beat UNCG. And kind of like what Jack said, UNCG's a 2 seed, but like I kept waiting for them all year to kind of slip, which they haven't to their credit, but I just don't trust them as like the top team. So I got ETSU in that game.
So you have a Chat ETSU final, Jack.
Yep.
Same. I
No.
can't. I'm sorry. I mean, I really.
Yeah.
I think the league is that simple this year. I think they are a tier ahead of everyone else, in my opinion. Healthy, for sure. If ETSU is missing Bugs, which Bugs didn't play the last game, correct?
I don't think he did.
And that definitely, I think they need him in that Wofford game. Not to win that game. They can win it without him, but I think they need him to get a warm-up sort of game. Kind of like if you think about 2 years ago, Jake Stevens missed so much time, and then he came back and was great in that Sanford game. But part of that, too, was like a big warm-up game for him. You kind of needed it for them to make that run to the championship. But, yeah, no, I think ETSU is, if they're fully healthy, they're great. And I sit there with Chattanooga the same way. I think Sanford could really give Chattanooga a run for their money. Furman, I feel less about, just because I don't know that Furman has the offense to match up with the UTC team. I remember I saw a stat, maybe it was a Ken Palm thing. Like Chattanooga's offense has been like
It's off the
top
charts. It's so
25
good.
in the nation,
Yeah.
not just efficiency wise, like not just in mid-major, like in the nation in the last couple months. So they've been great. I think a team that can beat them is either an ETSU who can really guard or a Sanford who can just gets the night where they're hot and the way they play. So Chat and ETSU, I can't really go against that. I feel pretty confident about that.
I think ETSU just got a really good draw here.
Yeah,
As the
I agree
3
with that
seed.
too.
And that's not to discredit Wofford or UNCG. I just think they're a tough matchup for those teams. I'd rather run into those 2 teams than Samford or Furman in the semifinals, to be quite honest. So I'm going ETSU to the title game, especially if Bugs is back and they have that spacing and shooting that we saw in the middle of the year where they were so good. Chat Samford is tough. It's really tough to pick. And I'm going to have to... Do I want to jinx us and also do Chat ETSU?
No, I don't.
Because I'm
think
with
there's-
you. I think those are 2 best teams in the league. I fully believe that.
I don't think there's any reason to pick just to pick in this kind of game.
No,
Like, just to be different.
I would agree.
Yeah, it's Chat ETSU. That's the title game. I don't think it's a coincidence that all three of us have that. I think, like you said, it's not cut and dry, but I think these are the two best teams in the league. And ETSU isn't playing as well as Chattanooga right now, but you know, when they're fully healthy and on track, they're good enough to get to the title game at least. So, all three of us, Chat ETSU. Jack, your SoCon champion is.
I'm gonna take UTC. That's gonna be a great game. There's always the Peterson factor of him just not missing, which is something he can do. But I just think UTC's offense is just awesome. I think offense wins this league. UTC has they swept ETSU this year. It's tough to beat a team 3 times, but I feel like they match up really well with them. ETSU can guard them, but even then, I think a guy like Champion can really thrive against their bigs. I just really like UTC this year. I think they're playing the best basketball to finish this stretch. They're 11 straight wins. And I was thinking about this earlier today, that UTC lost the first game of the SoCon season to Mercer, and that felt fluky. Like, in the moment, you're like, man, they really choked that game. Like, that was, they had the crazy comeback to send it to overtime, but it was like, what a bad loss. Like, how did they lose that game? Then they choked away the game against Sanford that they were killed. Like, they were controlled the whole first half. And then what was their third loss? I'm totally forgetting.
UNCG hit a game winner.
Yeah, and UNCG hit a game winner where it was
Yeah,
just,
play.
So, you really think the Sanford game is the one they really lost. To me, like, obviously they did lose. But I was just thinking about this way. They've been a lot more dominant than I guess I've realized. Obviously, the 11 straight, but it's almost been all year. Outside of that, just very start of the year where did they start 0-2 in the league?
I think 1 and 2.
I think 1 and 2 or 0-2, and one of them was a crazy buzzer beater 3 from UNCG in a game they didn't play great in either. They've been really dominant this year, and I was just kind of looking back on their year earlier, and I just think they're the best team, and would not shock me at all. We talked about it. I hate that they're coming into there with 11 wins. Like, that's a tough thing to just keep a win streak going on. But at the same time, I think it is great that they had that scare against the Citadel. So,
Taylor?
I would agree. I'm taking UTC over ETSU. I just think they match up really well with them, beat them twice. The first half of the year, I know they weren't all the way healthy, but they were trying to figure out to feed all those mouths. But they did. And then Freight Champion is just, as the third option, maybe even the first option sometimes, they just have so many guys who could beat you at any given night, and I just do not see them losing. This 11-game stretch, like, they just look unbeatable, and unless they fall off in the tournament, I don't see anyone beating them. Even those losses, to Jack's point, overtime, game winner, and they were up 11 at halftime against Sanford, like, I just think they're favored against any team, so I'm taking them over ETSU. Not to discredit ETSU, Peterson and Seymour go off, they could definitely win, but I think UTC will win.
I'm going ETSU. I am.
Good.
I'm glad.
Yeah, shut up. And I'm banking on one strategical move from Brooke Savage, and that in that game, take all the bigs off the floor. Unless you want to use them as fouls, start Seymour as the biggest guy on the court and match him up with Champion and go from there. That's your best chance. And it'd be different if those bigs were bringing something. DJ Hughes has been good, but if those bigs were bringing something to the table and you could have that size with some offensive output, it'd be a different story. But those guys just haven't. So you kind of have to match personnel, I guess, when it comes to Chattanooga. And so I'm going to take ETSU. I'm going to bank on the Peterson March Hero. Maybe you get some of that from Bugs too. But I don't know. I just feel confident in this team and their talent and their ability. And that's not to say Chattanooga's not talented and able, because obviously they're on an 11-game win streak and they've been the best team in the league all year. But I just think when it comes down to it, it's really just going to be who blinks first. And I've seen Kimari Peterson do it in March in Asheville, and I feel like there's a decent chance we see it again. But that's such a close game to pick. It really is difficult.
Yeah, I think the way I see it, if ETSU wins, it's because I think Peterson and Seymour are going to do their thing. Like I almost feel like that's a given. So I feel like it comes down to the other guys. So if ETSU wins this tournament, it probably means that Bugs played and Bugs had a Ebi Asamoah, Jamal Johnson of recent years. He had that kind of tournament where he was just money, counted on 4 threes a game, all tough looks, shooting at a high percentage. That's what I think takes them over the top. I think Peterson and Seymour are their 2 best players for sure, but adding that other guy that can give you 12 or 15 points on not wide open threes, like having a guy that just catches in rhythm and can shoot it over guys is such a weapon. And I think if they win this tournament, it's going to be because Peterson or Seymour is going to win the most valuable player, but it's going to be a large part due to the fact that Bugs plays well.
Yeah, it's
again no clue if he plays, but
I like to think so. I
me
mean,
too.
This is why we need injury reports, because
yeah.
if he just doesn't play, I'm just going to be looking like an idiot.
Yeah, if he doesn't play, I do feel
huge.
very strongly about Chat. I think ETSU can still get to the championship game, but if Bugs doesn't play in the tournament, I would feel really good about Chat. Not to overrate Bugs, but I just think it's more of what they have behind Bugs. I don't think is going to be good enough. Like I think Sisk is an all right player for the future. Johnson's good, but I don't even feel like Johnson is the guy that's really behind Bugs as much. I don't like Struthers is fine, but I don't want Struthers to have a huge role. I think that's how I feel about it. It's just less of how good I think Bugs is, even though I think it's good, and it's more of who else is going to be on the court if he's not there.
Yeah, I feel like on the books that would end up being just a pick'em game, maybe 1.5, but that would be a great game, especially when you take into account what happened last year between those 2 teams. For them to meet again with a lot of the same characters from last year would be great television. So
This turns to be crazy because there's also a good chance that neither of them make it. Could be Stanford.
There's also a very good chance.
Furman, or not Stanford Furman, but who knows what will happen.
Jack, I like that you did this last year, and I'm going to hold both of you to it again this year. A March Madness hero, if you had to pick one.
I don't remember doing this last year. Who did I take last year?
Asamoah.
Did I really? Man,
All right.
that's a great episode for me there, wasn't it?
All right,
He knew, and he just wanted to hear him. He just wanted to hear himself
He had the script.
again. Yeah.
Okay. I kind of want to take Kenan Giles, but I picked him to lose. There's several small guards I want to take. I kind of want to take Kenan Giles. I kind of want to take Ahmad Robinson. Both of those guys, I think, could have those takeover games. But since I picked against them, let me think about it. Because picking against them, obviously, I feel weird if I took those guys to be my March Madness heroes and I have them both losing in the quarters. So if y'all got one, y'all can take one.
I have a crazy one. I'm only picking him because it's a team that I picked to win. And hear me out on this. Not saying he's the best player, but I feel like Garrison Keesler is poised for a big tournament. He's just coming off a game where he hit 4 or 5 threes, and no one's expecting him to be the number one guy. But if they start doubling Huff or doubling Bonham or just keep an eye out for them, he can stay in the corner, hit some threes, play defense. I think he could be. It's more of an X factor thing, but I could look for him to be the X factor in this tournament for them. That was the first thought that came to my head.
My only setback with that is he's going to need time when he's open to shoot the ball. Just because His
It's
jump
a gut
shot.
feeling.
His jump shot doesn't lend itself to, hitting 5 threes 2 games in a row or whatever it is. Just because I don't know. I don't know that that's his game, but I can definitely see it considering what we saw from Demetrius Davis last year.
No.
It's not a bad take at all.
So we're taking not the guy, just like a X factor almost.
That's just what I went with.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got yours if you want to say yours.
I don't have mine.
Okay. I'll go then. I'm gonna stick with Bugs if Bugs plays. I think that's my guy that can be the big time difference maker. My audible to that is Ricky Bradley at VMI. I know we said about not being the guy, but VMI is not the team, so that doesn't count. Like I would say,
There you go.
I would love to say Honor Huff, but Honor Huff is a first team player on the
You
best team
wouldn't
in
be
the league.
surprised if he.
So yeah, I'm gonna say Ricky Bradley, and that's if they take down UNCG, it's gonna be because Ricky Bradley gets hot and gets to the line a bunch. It's crazy going back and looking at his stats in some of the games this year. Like he got to the line like 12, 15 times, several times, and shoots well there. So if it's not Bugs, if he doesn't play, I think it's Ricky Bradley who takes over in that UNCG game and has a crazy game.
This is a tough question. I'm kind of mad that I asked it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you get yours?
Bro asked a question with no answer to it.
No. Bugs would probably be the answer for me. If not him, Mekhi Johnson maybe. Just with his ability to shoot the ball, like as streaky as he is, if he gets hot, something could happen. And if Brooke Savage is listening and starts Seymour as the biggest guy on the floor, that would probably mean Mekhi Johnson would start, so would get some burn, enough to maybe do something like that, but I don't know. Jack Costle, maybe. That would be pretty cool. Shout out. I think he could get hot at the right time, but we'll see. Those would be my 2 picks. So, anything else? Any interesting takes? Taylor, your first trip to Asheville, are you excited? As a media
I've been to
member.
Asheville before. Oh, well, yeah.
As a media
I am
member.
excited. Yeah, I'm excited.
Your
Go up
first
there
where
on
you have
Friday.
to work. Yeah.
Yeah. Excited to get that
Yeah,
experience.
when Taylor walks in and you see him, if you're a listener, boo him.
But you're not even gonna be there Friday. You're a fake SoCon fan.
I'm sorry, I'll be getting off work when the first game starts. My apologies.
Taylor's
Got fans.
Taylor's
I'd call off
first,
work.
Taylor's first SoCon tournament that he can't drink at.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, who said you can't drink?
Yeah, what?
If you want to hop on this podcast drunk, I won't
He's
stop
gonna
You
be
might
posted
get
up in the
you
media.
might get better.
Post up
You might get
row.
better takes out of me.
I won't censor
Media row
anything
with
you
a
say,
Miller
but
and a hot dog. Just
Yeah, you might get more
down.
honest takes out of me on that one.
hot dog is crazy.
I strike Taylor as a hot dog guy.
I go through phases.
Taylor's a cheeseburger guy.
That's right.
Yeah. But anyway, that is all we have tonight. Thank you to everybody that joined the live, and I'm excited to go look at the live chat a little bit more and see if anybody contributed outside of John. But thank you everybody for listening. You can catch us on Monday on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple, and we'll see you guys Friday in Asheville.